Zina entered the apartment, opening the door with a lack of enthusiasm. The hallway was engulfed in darkness, casting a gloomy atmosphere around her. As she stepped inside, a putrid and repulsive odor of excessive alcohol consumption and excrement assaulted her nose. Her beloved husband and his father had been indulging in heavy drinking recently, neglecting basic adult responsibilities, even in the bathroom. "Where the hell do you think you're going, you bastard? It's dark outside. Hurry up and fetch some liquor. Can't you see our heads are throbbing? We need a hangover." Zenaida was greeted by the disgruntled, slurred voice of her father-in-law, Fyodor Stepanovich, the moment she crossed the threshold. Her husband, Vasily, lay face down in an empty sauerkraut plate on the table. Beside his nose, a stack of objects lay overturned. Zina felt a wave of disgust wash over her at the sight of her intoxicated father-in-law and husband, as well as the unkempt state of the apartment. She never found time to clean up after these two. "I said, we don't have any money for a bottle," she firmly declared to her father-in-law, trying to assert herself despite feeling inwardly diminished. "What did you say, you bastard?" The father-in-law menacingly approached his daughter-in-law. A bottle lying in his path hit his feet, crashing loudly onto the floor. Fyodor Stepanovich's eyes were vacant and lifeless, resembling those of a frozen fish. "I told you there's no money for vodka," the woman repeated loudly and clearly. "What do you mean there's no money?" Vasily suddenly tried to object, his speech slurred. He weakly lifted his head from the plate, but promptly returned to his helpless position. The grandfather continued his threatening advance towards his daughter-in-law, his fists clenched and his face distorted with drunken animosity. He swung his fist menacingly at her. "Ah, you bastard!" Zenaida swiftly ducked, evading the blow as it swung past her into the air. She forcefully pushed the drunkard away from her, causing him to stumble and fall to the floor, flailing his arms and legs like an overturned beetle. Zina didn't care to witness the conclusion of this degrading spectacle and hastily made her way out of the door. Outside, everyone seemed to be in a hurry, rushing into stores, purchasing ingredients for their dinners. Alone on a bench in the courtyard, clutching her worn-out bag, she gazed longingly at her home, which had once felt like a sanctuary. But now, with her husband and father-in-law trapped in a perpetual state of drunken debauchery, her life had turned into a living nightmare. They suffocated her, depriving her of any sense of comfort. The thought of the approaching weekend filled her with dread and despair. Was this ever truly my home? She wondered aloud. Doubt lingered in her mind, questioning whether she had ever truly found solace within these walls. When she married Vasily, it was out of love. He had seemed like a kind, decent man skilled with his hands. Vasily could fix, build, and mend anything. And with her age catching up to her, she hadn't noticed how she had reached 30 without a family or children of her own. "You, Zinechka, will be my unwavering support," Vasily had promised, embracing his bride. Even the fact that Vasily occasionally arrived at their dates with a hint of alcohol on his breath didn't bother Zina. It was just to boost his confidence, he had explained, though it displeased her. Yet Zina managed to calm herself, thinking, well, he must love me so much that he becomes terribly anxious before our dates. She reassured herself and later reassured her mother and older sister Lena. "Daughter, that's not called anxiety. It's pure disrespect towards you and all of us." Her mother had exclaimed in indignation when Vasily and his father came to meet the bride's family, clearly inebriated. And the future mother-in-law reassured Zina's family, saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. They were just overreacting. They drink like everyone else, only on special occasions." After Zina married Vasily and moved in with him and his parents following a major disagreement with her own mother and sister, she soon realized that special occasions were a regular occurrence in this family. Initially, Zina observed that her father-in-law and husband would indulge in drinking on weekends, from Friday to Sunday. Throughout the weekends, Zina and her mother-in-law would spend their time cooking meals so that the two intoxicated men had something to eat. They can't go without a snack. Otherwise, they'll be completely drunk, her mother-in-law would tell her, giving Zina the impression that such behavior was considered normal in their daily lives. Gradually, the excessive drinking extended beyond weekends, encompassing Mondays and other weekdays as well. Vasily eventually lost his job due to chronic absenteeism, and Zina had to find another part-time job after the office cleaning lady quit. She practically forced herself into that position. "Zinatka, what's missing in your life? You have a good salary, don't you?" questioned the personnel inspector. "My father-in-law needs medical treatment." Zina blurted out the first thing that came to her mind. Zina fought for her husband because she loved him. She attempted to persuade him to move out and rent an apartment, but he always responded with, "I can't leave my parents." In reality, as Zina eventually realized, Vasily was content with their current lifestyle. A year ago, Varvara Petrovna passed away. Zina went to work, and upon her return, her mother-in-law was gone. Sitting at the table were two drunken men who seemed oblivious to what had occurred. Zina wanted to escape from them. Her love for her husband had vanished, but there was nowhere to run. She felt ashamed in front of her mother and sister, with whom she had a major fight 4 years ago when she had made up her mind to marry Vasily. They had maintained contact over the phone, sharing news, but Zina never revealed the truth about her living conditions to her family, and she never visited them. "Where can I go dressed like this?" Zina thought, looking at her worn-out shoes, remnants of her past luxurious life. "Granny, can you tell me where Relieva 17 is?" she asked a stranger. Well, at the age of 35, they already call her Granny. Zina thought, "Look what I've come to." She glanced up, hearing something familiar in the woman's voice. In the twilight, she couldn't quite make out the features, but the figure, the voice. Zinaida hesitantly and with surprise asked, "Lenka, is that you?" The woman seemed taken aback by Zinaida's reaction and quickly walked toward her. "Zinka, why are you sitting here? What's wrong? Your mother and I have been worried sick about you for days. She calls me every day, begging me to find you. Seems like she had a reason to worry." Lena examined her sister attentively, understanding the hardships she must have endured. "I've never been here before. Here, I found you," she continued, taking a seat beside me and pulling Zina close. "Well, tell me." Zina burst into tears as she recounted the past 4 years of her life. She spoke of how she had never had a moment to think about herself, spending her substantial salary on feeding 2 men who drank themselves to death. But today, she had made a sudden decision to stop. Impatience had consumed her. "You know, Len, I was just about to call you." "And you sensed it," Zina said through tears, burying herself in her sister's shoulder. "Come on, get ready. Let's go to my place. I'll call a cab. It's already dark," I suggested. "Len, it's not convenient to go to your place. You have a family. I'd rather go to my mom's," Zinaida cautiously objected. But Lena's frown grew stubborn, and she shook her head. "No, come to me first. You can't visit Mom looking like that. It's only Alyanka with her mother today, and Nikita is away on a week-long business trip." My sister smiled, nudging Zina affectionately toward the approaching car with a glowing taxi sign on the windshield. Zina considered her tattered handbag, her worn-out shoes, and her appearance, which resembled that of an old woman. Reluctantly, she agreed with her sister. She couldn't frighten her mother in such a state. Finally arriving at Lena's house, Zina caught a glimpse of their reflections in the hallway mirror. Lena appeared 10 years younger than Zina, despite being a year older. An unpleasant comparison, Zinaida thought to herself. The next morning, Lena woke her sister early, speaking cheerfully as she opened the curtains. "Wake up, sleepyhead. We have a lot to do today." "Oh, Lena, for the first time in 4 years, I slept peacefully. It feels so good," Zina replied, stretching. Come on, sister, let's have breakfast. Then we'll find you some clothes from my closet for the first time. They sat at the table, enjoying a peaceful breakfast and reminiscing about their childhood, sharing laughter. It felt light and soothing to their souls. Afterward, Lena rummaged through her closet and found an elegant, form-fitting dress, a fashionable black jacket with a masculine cut, new shoes with a small heel, and a leather handbag for Zena. Try these on. They should look good on you. She handed the items to her sister. Is all of this for me? Zena asked, surprised. Of course, it's all for you. But hurry up. We have to go to the beauty salon, Lena urged. Within 10 minutes, Zena stood before the mirror, fidgeting nervously as she admired her reflection in the new clothes. What a joy it is to have something new, especially when you haven't bought anything for years. Zena thought, filled with joy and pleasure as she gazed at herself in the mirror. Her complexion and hairstyle might have left room for improvement, but her eyes shone brightly and her lips curved into a smile. Oh, Zinka! Oh my goodness! You look stunning! Lena exclaimed, peeking into the room. Lena had urged her sister all morning for a purpose, and it wasn't in vain. They had spent half the day at the salon, but the results were well worth it. Zena couldn't believe her eyes when she looked in the mirror. It was as if those dreadful years spent with alcoholics, who had drained her of all her strength, had never existed. There you go. Now we can go to Mom's, Elena concluded with satisfaction, examining her sister from every angle. On their way, Zena hurried to buy flowers, picking out her mother's favorite chrysanthemums. When they arrived, their mother burst into tears and held on to Zena tightly, unable to let go. Zena, can you believe this? My heart aches for you. I know you'd never admit you were suffering. Mama, it was bad, really bad. But now I've left them, and it's for the best. Can I stay with you for a while? Oh, my dear, what are you asking? This is your home. Zena felt an overwhelming sense of happiness. It was as if a mountain had been lifted off her shoulders. She could finally live her life without serving her drunken husband and father-in-law. When Zena returned to work, the first thing she did was quit her part-time job as a cleaner. How is your father-in-law doing? The personnel department asked her. He's completely and permanently cured, Zena grinned. Now she hurried home with joy in her heart, stopping at the store to buy ingredients for dinner. Hundreds of people do this every day, rushing to their homes, children, families, and parents, and they have no idea how fortunate they are. Zena thought as she purchased ordinary groceries like cottage cheese, sour cream, and kefir. Her mother eagerly awaited her arrival, asking the usual questions about her day and mood. The month passed in a similar fashion, and Zena had grown accustomed to this normal life, hoping it would last forever. Today, her salary was transferred to her bank account, and she wanted to celebrate with a small dinner for her family, her mother, sister, brother-in-law, and niece. Zena walked out of the office with a smile, basking in the sunny day. Suddenly, she froze. Standing in front of the door was Vasily, her husband, battered and intoxicated. He scrutinized the faces of passersby. Zena's heart turned cold, her body tensing like a coiled spring, preparing for a confrontation. But she chose a different path. Without a word, she walked past him, leaving a trail of her new perfume's fragrance behind. Vasily didn't recognize his wife and remained standing there, searching the faces of women leaving the office. Zeneta let out a sigh of relief. What a relief! Well, yes, he's waiting for an old woman in worn-out shoes. Glancing at her watch, she realized she had enough time to file for divorce. At her age, life was just beginning. An hour later, a content and jubilant Zena was perusing the aisles of a supermarket, selecting the finest wine. After all, such a joyous occasion deserved a celebration. Pardon me for being forward, but I can't help but compliment you. You're a stunning woman and clearly very happy. I envy your husband, a delighted man remarked. Zena smiled a mysterious smile that would rival the enigmatic Mona Lisa's, holding her head high as she walked away. She still had everything ahead of her.